All right, today we're going on a little adventure. Think of it as the epic tale of your money. A hero on a very simple but super important quest to protect its power from a sneaky, invisible villain. So every great story has a hero, right? Well, our hero is a single-dollar bill, and you're taking this dollar on a mission to the candy store. The objective? Simple. Get as much candy as you possibly can.
And on this particular day, our dollar hero is feeling powerful. The candies are just 5 cents a piece. You do the quick math, hand over your dollar, and bam, you walk out with 20 pieces of candy. Mission accomplished.
You're feeling great about that last trip, so you decide to do it again a week later. You walk into the same store with that same trusty dollar in your hand, all set for another candy haul. But something's off. You go up to the counter, ready to make the trade, but this time your dollar only gets you 10 candies. What happened? Well, the price doubled. Each one is now 10 cents. Your dollar looks the same, it feels the same, but suddenly its power has been sliced in half. What our hero just lost is something called purchasing power. You can just think of it as your money's strength. It's not about the number 1 printed on the bill. It's about how much actual stuff that bill can buy you. And in just 1 week, our dollar's strength dropped from 20 candies down to 10. So this brings us to the big mystery in our story. What is this invisible force that's making our dollar hero weaker? And it's not just at the candy store, right? You see it with gas, with groceries, with pretty much everything. And here he is, the villain of our story, inflation. Inflation is that slow, steady increase in prices across the board. It's this shadowy force that makes everything cost more over time. And while it's doing that, it's constantly chipping away at your money's purchasing power. Now, to figure out how to defend our hero, we've got to understand the villain. Where does inflation even come from? To find out, let's take a peek behind the scenes at, say, a chocolate factory. See, our villain, inflation, doesn't just have one move. It gets its power from 3 main sources, 3 secret weapons it uses to weaken our dollar. They're called demand pull, cost push, and built-in inflation. First up is demand pull. Imagine a brand new, super popular chocolate bar comes out. Everybody wants it, but the factory only made a handful. Well, with a ton of people clamoring for not enough chocolate, the store can charge more for it, right? The massive demand is literally pulling the price up. Next, we have cost push inflation. Let's switch over to an ice cream shop for this one. What happens if the cost of milk or sugar or even the flour for the cones suddenly gets more expensive? Well, the shop now has to pay more to make the exact same scoop of ice cream. So that extra cost gets pushed onto you, the customer. The price goes up. And the final one is called built-in inflation. And this one is a tricky one. It's a cycle. So workers at the factory notice that prices for everything are going up, so they ask for higher wages just to keep up. The company agrees, but to cover those higher wages, it has to raise the price of its chocolate bars, which of course just adds to the problem of rising prices everywhere else. It's a loop. Now, a little bit of inflation, that's usually seen as totally normal, even healthy for an economy. But what happens when our villain goes from just chipping away at value to an all-out rampage, when it goes totally wild? That's when things get really scary. Let's just take a quick trip back to Germany in the 1920s. This is probably the most famous and cautionary tale of what's called hyperinflation. The government was printing unbelievable amounts of money, and its value just completely collapsed. In 1922, the biggest bill was a 50,000 mark note. Just 1 year later, it was a 100 times trillion mark note. The whole situation got so insane that money, the paper itself, became more valuable as kindling than as currency. Just try to imagine that. Your life savings becoming so worthless that you'd actually be better off burning it to stay warm for a few minutes. That's the devastating power of hyperinflation. And if you think this is all just dusty, old history, it's not. As recently as July of 2008, the country of Zimbabwe had a monthly inflation rate of over 231 million%. Prices were pretty much doubling every single day. It just goes to show you how fragile a currency's value can really be. Okay, that got a little intense. But this story isn't a tragedy, because now that we understand the villain, we can learn how to fight back. We can learn how to defend our hero. So how do we actually protect our money's value from being eaten away by inflation? So, what's the first line of defense? Well, your first instinct might be to just stash your cash somewhere safe. Like under the mattress. But that's actually a losing game. A dollar that's just sitting there doing nothing is a dollar that inflation is weakening day after day.
So how does our hero fight back? By going on the offense. A hero can't win by hiding. It's got to get stronger. And you do that by putting your money to work, by investing it so it can grow faster than inflation is shrinking it. You can buy little pieces of companies with stocks or lend it out with bonds. The goal is always the same. Help your money grow so its purchasing power stays strong.
And so our dollar hero, now armed with the power of growth, is finally safe from that shrinking villain, inflation. This particular quest is over. But let's be honest, the battle never really ends. The real question is, what adventure are you going to send your money on next?